the folks at Uber to develop new features, improve the app, and improve the overall experience on the app for drivers and couriers. Earlier today, Uber launched a number of really exciting new features and products. For the next hour, we're going to get to hear from the product managers at Uber and the crew members that worked on those products. So we're going to get a real behind the scenes look at what was it like, what's the process like. It's going to be really exciting. But to start off here, we got a really special guest, an exciting guest, Sachin, who's the Chief Product Officer at Uber. Welcome, Sachin. Thanks for being here. Can you, just to kick us off, introduce yourself and most importantly, tell us what does a Chief Product Officer do?
Yeah, that's a good question. What does a Chief Product Officer do? First of all, thank you for having me here. It's such a pleasure to be joining you as we are interacting with and talking to many drivers and couriers out there. So I'm Sachin Kansal. I'm Chief Product Officer. So my team is responsible for building all of our product experiences. Now, this applies to rider experiences, the Uber Eats app, but most importantly, and thing that is closest to my heart, is building for drivers and couriers. I've been at Uber for 8 years, and before I took this role, which was about a year ago, my entire time was spent building for drivers and couriers, both in terms of making the app easy to use, making sure that safety is an integral part of their experience as well. And even before in my career, actually before Uber, I used to work for a taxi app company called Flywheel. And during that time, I had the pleasure of interacting with a lot of drivers as well, in that case, taxi drivers. So it's a community that I have engaged with very heavily for the last 10 years of my career. And I would say is the most enjoyable part of my job.
That's really cool. So in your role, how does Uber Crew fit into that? How did it come about? Can you tell us a little bit more on
Yeah,
that?
it's been a fascinating journey. Uber Crew did not exist about 4 or 5 years ago at Uber. That didn't mean that we didn't get feedback, that we didn't look for feedback. But I would say our mechanism of getting feedback from drivers and couriers was a little bit ad hoc. We did a lot of surveys, we did a lot of focus groups, we did a lot of one-on-one interactions. But the feedback we would get from drivers and couriers was, it's a black hole. I don't know where my feedback is going. There's no follow through. There's not a structured process. So we knew that we needed something different. And that's where Uber Crew was born. We wanted to be partners with drivers and couriers, and we wanted to not only hear their feedback about what is working for them, what is not working for them, but actually co-create solutions with them. Because if they're encountering a problem on a day-to-day basis, they probably also have the best ideas in terms of how to solve that. So we wanted to put together our product management people and our engineers right next to drivers and couriers and learn from them. So that's where the idea of Uber Crew was born. But we needed to make sure that it is structured in such a way that it is independent and it is scalable. So there is trust in the system, which is where we were very fortunate to partner with yourself and with street level strategy, because we were able to create a process which was transparent. And at the same time, there was a lot of trust in the process. So that's been the journey. And since then, a lot of people on my team interact with Uber Crew members on an ongoing basis. We are able to have a very honest dialogue, and we actually love it. We want to hear what's not working well in the app and in the experience overall, and then create solutions together and then ship them. And it's not one and done. Some of these problems are hard problems. And so we build something, we may get it wrong, we may not solve the entire problem. We want to be able to go back and continue to get feedback. So it's been a great journey. And in fact, if I may ask you, you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about street level strategy and how you have engaged with Uber and your view of Uber Crew, and how do you approach sort of your role in Uber Crew?
Absolutely, thank you. So street level strategy, yes, we have been working with Uber for quite some time. Like I mentioned, we're the independent, as you know, third party that operates Uber Crew. What we really do is we're a consulting firm, but we specialize on using human-centered design to solve problems. So what that really means is we work with organizations like Uber to elevate the voices and the experiences of customers, constituents, others, whatever it may be, to actually impact decision making, right? So it's a really good transition or synergy with what we do at Uber Crew, where it's exactly that. We're working with couriers and drivers, everyday folks, and facilitating these discussions, facilitating this process with the product managers, the decision makers at Uber to bring their experiences, really their expertise, right? Their on the ground expertise to life when you guys are working on creating these products. So it's been a really exciting journey. And, I mean, kind of looking back at it, we started Crew, I don't know, like you said, 3, 4 years ago. It started with 10 crew members. It was a tiny little pilot, a couple of topics that they worked on. Fast forward to today, it's grown rapidly. It's a nationwide program. There's a multitude of different avenues where the couriers and drivers interact with the decision makers at Uber and the engineers, the product managers. And that's really, it's just grown over time as the feedback channels, the experiences from the folks on the ground have really become ingrained in the product design process that you all follow. So it's been super interesting. One example I love to give is, again, this was way back when, is rider ID, right? Way back when we started, you heard that a lot from drivers about, rider verification. It kept coming up. And it was amazing because Uber, the product managers, the folks at Uber, they took that feedback, they listened, and that's really what helped shape rider ID. So it was, I think that's a great example of what Uber Crew does and what the relationship is with Uber.
I think rider ID is a great example. It is something that we have discussed for years. And now it shows up as a subtle check mark on the offer card when a driver gets an offer. But it is so meaningful for drivers to know that, yo, this rider has gone through some verification. One of the things I didn't mention is whenever I get a chance, I go out and drive and deliver as well. And I suddenly have done enough or my share of pickups during night in locations I didn't know. And being able to see sort of that check mark and know that, this rider has been verified does give me a lot of peace of mind. And I think the way we were able to approach solving that hand in hand with Uber Crew just has played a huge role in us coming up with a good solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really interesting that you get out and drive. I think I'm sure a lot of the folks that are listening today will really appreciate that. I think the other thing on the rider ID that highlights a thing that I feel really proud of about Crew is the transparency and the collaboration aspect, right? Because again, this was an issue that it was a big one for the drivers, but it was hard to solve, right? And so a lot of these conversations that we have, or the crew members have, they're not always easy, but it's sourcing those truths, really, looking at it in a critical way and finding a path forward. So
yeah. Well, maybe let's talk a little bit about today.
Let's do it.
Today is going to be a great set of conversations between product managers and crew members. We're going to touch on a few interesting topics such as destination mode, women rider preferred. These are some of the things that we actually announced this morning, and we'll go a lot deeper on these topics. And these topics are great examples where we needed to get feedback from crew members and co-create with them. And I'm glad that today we were able to announce some of these. So hopefully you will enjoy the behind the scenes stories behind some of these products. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, thank you so much, Sachin. I know you got to run. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us, and have a good flight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, take care. So we're going to keep it going, and we're going to bring up our first set of folks here. We got Will, who's a crew member, and Anthony, our product manager. Will, how you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Anthony, good to see you. Thank you guys for joining.
You.
Will, you've been with Crew for 3+ years now. You're kind of a veteran, so you kind of seen it all. Anthony, you've I know we'll give you a chance to introduce yourself, but you worked on a lot of exciting products. We're gonna drill down on destination mode today, which is I know a real popular one for folks. To kick it off, Anthony, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Anthony Abaroa. I am a product manager at Uber. I've been here for 5 years now, and the last couple working on what's called earner preferences, which is any way in which our couriers and drivers tell us the trips they want to take on Uber. So whether they want to do UberX trips or they want to do deliveries, that's an earner preference. Whether you want to take trips in a particular direction, like the destination mode we'll talk about today, that's another earner preference.
Great. Will, how about yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Will Goff. I'm a driver in the Los Angeles market. I've been on the Uber platform going on year 8, and I've been a part of the Uber crew team going into year 3 now. So I'm looking forward to being able to drill deeper into this conversation about destination mode.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So, Anthony, we'll start with you. For folks that don't know, what's destination mode?
Destination mode is a feature that allows you to only get trips going in a particular direction. So you go onto the app and you say, I live at 123 Main Street, and you plug that in, and we will only send you trips that get you closer and closer to that final destination. And so what's really great about destination mode is it helps Uber work around your life. Whether you need to go pick up your kids at school or you just want to go home at the end of your day, it allows you to get those trips. And without destination mode, you really wouldn't be able to do that. We'd be sending you in any particular direction, and that might be frustrating. So it really helps you use the platform around your life.
Great. So, Will, you were in product sessions, you worked on some improvements,
Yes.
gave some feedback on destination mode. Going into those sessions, what was your experience or your interactions with destination mode?
Prior to becoming a crew member and Destination was rolled out, it still had some quirks in it. And one which Anthony spoke to about you would be going backtracking as opposed to getting closer to your destination. And that in itself was frustrating. The other concern was trips were just kind of all over the map, and you thought, I can't go back 5 miles for this little bitty piece of change here. And once we sat at the table and started to really understand what Anthony was seeing, and then we were able to explain from a driver's perspective what we are actually experiencing day to day while using the app, we were able to get some understanding. I then had a greater respect for the product managers and what they were trying to accomplish, but they needed that input from a driver, a real-time live data driver who can explain what those hiccups is, nuances may have been that would help improve and make it better. So when I fast forward to what we're seeing today, a huge improvement.
That's awesome. I mean, Anthony, how did you coming into the sessions, hearing that feedback and the impressions of destination mode? What was your impressions, and how'd you take that, or how'd you use that feedback?
Yeah, so it starts out, Uber does a lot to try to listen to drivers. We just heard Sachin talk about it a little bit. We have surveys out there. We do roundtables like Crew. Ourselves, we go and drive. We monitor what people say about us on the internet. So we get a lot of feedback on how drivers and couriers feel about our products. And so destination mode in particular is one of those things that kept bubbling up as like drivers talked about it a lot, and it was just frustrating them. So what we do is when we hear that, we like figure out, all right, these are the things that really seem to be a problem. And then that's where Crew is really, really valuable, is we can dive deep in with drivers and understand like what is going on with these products, what is actually not working about them, and what would it take to fix them. And so like Will and Crew were so valuable in figuring that out about destination mode. And then after that, we figured out what are the problems we have, and then we figure out what the solutions are. And now it's like, well, we can't do everything all at once. So it's figuring out how do we prioritize these things. And so it's like with destination mode, if it's not working right, drivers just can't stay online as long. They can't work flexibly in their life. And so that's a big deal for Uber. The whole like value proposition of Uber is like make it easy for drivers to work, and that way it makes it easy for riders to get where they want to go. So fixing destination mode is a real key for our business to help it run more smoothly and grow.
I want to definitely dive into the fixes, like how you guys prioritize things. But real quick, Will, how did you coming into the sessions? the fact that you're expressing these issues with destination mode, how did it feel that Anthony was hearing you, that they were taking the feedback?
It goes back to one of the questions that was asked earlier. I believe it was during the fireside chat. Why was these conversations important and why do they matter? Because if you didn't hear those conversations in those product session meetings, you wouldn't really understand from a driver's perspective what was happening. So for me, I really could appreciate that Anthony, one, he was receptive to listening and not as defensive from the beginning up until now, to really understand that this is what these guys are experiencing daily. And it really took a minute for it to start to gel, but there was some light at the end of this tunnel, and it seems to be getting brighter and brighter. It makes me happier and happier. And I can still perform at an optimal level because that was the whole goal, to keep me on as long as I wanted to be on the app, still earn at the same time, and be productive and still help my community get to their destinations while I get to my destination.
Awesome. So Anthony, going back to you're in the sessions, you're getting the feedback, you got your perspective from the data and stuff. So how did you prioritize things? How did you start tackling this?
Yeah, so we started out with this like problem development. So we talked about that a little bit. So Will's talking about these backtracking trips. So that was clearly like the biggest problem with destination mode. There were some other ones that came out of these sessions. So once we gather all these like different problems and we prioritize them, we came back with like a solution. So this is the next big step in solving these sort of problems. We come in, all right, this is the thing we want to go build. And then again, this is where Crew is so valuable. We come to Crew and we say, hey, this is the thing we want to build. This is what we're trying to, do. And we get feedback on how drivers would actually use this in real time. And that is so crucial to making these products work. So previously with destination filter, you could only just turn it on and it would just send you in the direction, but it really wouldn't give you any control about how fast or slow you'd get to your ultimate destination. And in this like more detailed Crew sessions, we found out that drivers want more control over that experience. And that was born the flexible versus faster route. Is like sometimes drivers like, no, I need to get to this destination right away. I can do a trip or two, but I really just need to get there quickly. And then sometimes I have more time. I need to go pick up my daughter from soccer practice at 4. I have time to do some more trips on the way. I just need to be there at 4. And so out of these Crew sessions, like, oh, we need to do more than just fixing this. We need to actually build upon it and build something actually better for our drivers. And then the final step, which we're in now, and actually Will and I just met, not so long ago, a couple weeks ago, about is after we've launched this product, is it actually doing the thing we said it was going to do? So we worked a long time to make sure we get it right, but we never get it right. Nobody ever gets anything right on their first try. So it's always about coming back and then continuing to fix it and continuing to work on it. So we launched destination mode across the US 2 months ago, and now we're trying to figure out how do we keep making it better and better. So we've gotten some great feedback on it and trying to now, take it the next step.
That's great. So it's identifying like what's the priority one problem, talking through solutions, building it, testing it out, getting feedback from Will and others, and going forward. I mean, Will, is that process working? What's your perspective?
From my perspective, the two features that Anthony mentioned, flexible and faster route, those were very useful because it does speak to the flexibility of the app as a whole and why we drive on the platform. But in destination mode, you're right. There are times when I have a little more flexibility and I can kind of go here and there, but still going towards my destination. But in those instances where I did need to get there faster, it was great. So that was a great tool to kind of tweak just a bit, and it really made a difference. It was, in my opinion, a game changer because it did allow me that room to say, okay, you know what? I know I can do this trip, I can take that trip, and I'm still going to make it home on time. As we worked with Anthony, he was starting to point out some areas that, and I get it, prioritizing. Everything was not going to be done yesterday. We had to be patient. We all had to really put on our patience hat, but still be willing to come to the table with an open mind to work with the project managers, the Uber staffing and developers to really, really give them that core piece of information as it related to what you were seeing from a manager's perspective and what we were experienced as the driver, the real boots on the ground, so to speak. So that helped make the difference. So thank you, Anthony.
And I imagine the follow through, right? Like the ongoing conversations. It's different from, we've all done it. You take a survey, you give your opinion, and then that's kind of it, right?
Right, right. And I think one of the things, and Sachin touched on it, in the beginning, it was like, oh, it's just in a black hole somewhere. Because you never saw any feedback. You never got any type of uh, information saying, we heard your information, we're working on it. So you didn't know what to think,
Hmm.
where it went, who's doing what. Now that we have this Uber crew and an opportunity to actually speak with a live person about what's really going on, it helps you and ease your anxieties. And I feel as if though my worth means something now. So that's really important.
That's awesome. Anthony, so what's next for Destination Road? I know you guys both said you're not done.
No, we are not. So I alluded to it before. We just did another Uber crew session a couple weeks ago with Will and a few other folks. And the big problem we're hearing now is that drivers haven't been getting enough trips while they're on destination mode anymore. Essentially, if you think about it, part of this change was to take a filter that was, made it much more narrow. And when you make it a lot more narrow, there's going to be fewer trips that actually fit into this. So what we did was we accidentally, well, I don't know accidentally, but we reduced trip volume down too much. So it became maybe not enough earnings while you're on your way to somewhere. So we've been working to figure out how do we get more trip volume in. So we can do that in a few different ways. One of the big ones is like there are certain times when we're probably just over filtering trips that Will would like on his way, and it's finding those opportunities to loosen that filter in certain places without going back to what it was before. Still making sure we don't send you back 10 minutes the wrong direction, but making sure at certain times we can loosen that and get more trip volume, and also just taking a better advantage of these drivers while they're available to go somewhere. If we have two drivers next to each other and they're each, one is trying to go this direction and we do have a trip that's going that direction, try to give it to the driver that is like has limited flexibility, because we know we can get that driver into that trip and we can have another trip to the other driver. So just working on the algorithm a little bit that determines which trips go to which drivers, so make sure we prioritize these drivers appropriately so they can get trips on their way to their destination.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to see the next round of improvements. Thank you both for coming in and sharing your behind the scenes experience with us. And I know, Anthony, you'll be back to talk with us a little bit later, but thanks a lot, Will.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Back.
Anthony? All right, so now we're going to bring up Joe, our, remember, Joe, how you doing? Good to see you. And Anna, product manager, hi. Thanks so much for joining us. So we just talked destination mode. We're going to shift gears and talk about Courier's favorite topic, batch deliveries, right? Okay. We heard earlier today, we heard about some exciting updates that got released. So we're going to dive into a little bit more. So just to get started, again, if you guys could introduce yourselves, maybe Anna, if you could start.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm a product manager at Uber. I've been here for 7 years, which feels like a lifetime, but also like it was yesterday. I've been doing a bunch of different roles, but for the past year and a half, I've been the product manager for the in-trip experience. What does that mean? Is basically everything after offer acceptance and all the way until the trip is completed and everything in between. Think about how you pick up the food or the person and all the way to you deliver the food or the person, or if something goes wrong, like all those flows is what me and my team build together. And I'm very excited and honored to be here today talking with all of you and with the people here.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you. Thanks so much for being here. Joe, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Joe Allen. I'm a driver in the Kansas City area. I've only been doing the gig driver thing for a couple of years, so compared to Will and Jeray and all the other drivers been up here today, I'm a complete greenhorn. But about a year in, I got a tap on the shoulder to take part in the Uber Crew program, and I drive on all the platforms there, so I get to see how everybody does things, how the different systems work and everything. And this, to my experience, was the first time I'd seen anybody reaching out from the top down to, as we've heard the term, boots on the ground, the drivers themselves, for information on how to make things better and improve the process, make it more efficient and more profitable.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, well, let's get into it. So Anna, batch deliveries? We know it's like a big topic. Can you just start us off? What are batch deliveries?
Yes. So batching is our beloved feature. It basically helps us have our marketplace be a little bit more efficient. You get your orders more timely. And basically, all couriers probably have had a batched order, but for those at home or here that don't know what that is, imagine that we have a pool of orders, right? At a certain moment, we grab a couple of them, we bundle them, and we send them to a courier so they can deliver it, that they're on the same route or on the same way or nearby to each other. Once the courier accepted it, there could be many different types and flavors of batching. Imagine that you can pick up 2 orders from the same restaurant to different users. You can pick up different restaurants to different users, or you can even pick different restaurants to one same user. And I can see your faces. It is confusing and it's complicated. And it gets even more complicated on the ground. And maybe Joe can talk better than me, but like the fact that you have so many orders, so many things, so many people is super easy to get things wrong, make a mistake, or that someone else that is outside of your control that you cannot fix. So it's complicated and sometimes it can be a little bit painful. It's good for a marketplace, good for earnings, complicated.
But a lot of moving pieces, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, Joe, you're the one that does it.
I think Anna's using the term beloved kind of ironically because a lot of drivers have mixed feelings about it. Some of them I've talked to flat out won't take them. They just cannot grasp the concept. It seems like it's very confusing as has been sitting because you don't know. You only knew who the first pickup was at. You didn't know subsequent pickups. Sometimes you didn't. I think sometimes it would say that it was the same place, but sometimes I don't know that it often did. That you would at least know the total destination, but you couldn't really evaluate the pickup because you didn't know maybe where the second merchant was going or what kind of neighborhood the other thing was. So a lot of people avoided them. There was also the concern of a wait time, whether it's from, the first pickup goes smooth, the second has a wait time, or even if it's at the same, it happened to me the other day, 2 pickups from the same restaurant, and 12 minutes in, I had to drop the second order because I didn't want, I'm watching
Yeah.
customers' food get cold, so I just had to let the second order go to get it to them. So that's been a lot of the pain points, and it's been a struggle, but it's getting a lot better.
Okay. Well, Anna, how'd you start unwinding this stuff? Obviously, you said very powerful feature, complex. Joe gave some of that color. Take us through the process.
Right. So we have heard from our earners that, and when Joe says like earners are scared of it, it's like immediately to me there's something wrong. I don't want anyone to be scared about anything. So it was like we heard it, then I looked into my data and immediately was like, hey, look at me, there's a problem. But there's so much data can tell you, right? I deep dive and everything. So then I decided, like a lot of my team members also do it, like I put my comfy shoes, I grabbed my bike, and I went on to hunt batched orders.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was trying to get all of them. Sometimes it's hard to get the right combination. And once I got all the combinations, I was like, yeah, this is very hard. There are a lot of things outside of our control. A lot of things can go wrong. Like immediately, there's so much chaos, especially at dinner time. Like I'm nervous. I don't know what to do. There was a lot of letters and things. I don't know where to enter. So it became imminent to me that we needed to do better for our earners and that all that scaredness, I wanted to go away. So we prioritized it and we started building upon it. The thing was that after I was delivering, I also had a bunch of missing pieces of the puzzle. I knew the why. This is complex, difficult, but I was like, how do we make it better for them? So that's when I turned into our experts, that they do it all the time, and I needed to know how can we make this better to them. So that's when we started talking with Joe and all the crew members, and it was amazing.
So it sounds like you went out and delivered. So you saw it for yourself. You're looking at all the data. Joe's hearing from Joe, the experts. It kind of brings it to life, right? It kind of fills in the gaps. And Joe, you just gave a couple examples, but I know before in the past, you've shared with me. I've heard you talk about this example of how you used a Sharpie, right, to keep the orders organized.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, it's probably no surprise my first batch order was an unmitigated disaster.
Okay.
It was, yeah. Uh, so uh, it's pretty easy if you got McDonald's and Chick-fil-A. They've got logos everywhere. It's real easy to tell the products apart. A lot of restaurants use, generic white T-shirt bags or just stapled shut, buff grocery type bags, that sort of thing. And it can be real easy to confuse them. So after the first mix up, I immediately grabbed a Sharpie and just anytime the packages were visually similar, I would make sure and write the customer's name on them. It's a 50-cent fix for a big problem because
Mm-hmm.
when you make that mistake, it's not good, and it's quick field expedient to fix it, and the Sharpie works out great. Although in fairness sake, there are other brands of markers available.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're not paid off by Sharpie.
Not sponsored by Sharpie. But so Anna, like I imagine those are the kinds of that's the kind of info you're getting. How did you hearing stories like that? How did you take that and help inform what you were creating on the product side?
Right. I remember the cruise session, and Joe started mentioning this Sharpie story, and it was like an immediate aha moment for me. Like, yeah, of course. Like, we're all visual. We need visual cues. Our app is black and white. There's not a lot of letters, a lot of confusing things. Like, we need to bring the Sharpie to the app.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we connect this information to the app? A lot of crew members also had other tactics of like they break the bag, they put a little sticker. Like there was a lot of visual talk
Uh-huh.
that we needed to bring to the app. So I loved it. It was like those pieces of the puzzle that I needed came to me, and we were like, okay, let's start to put them together. And me and the designer were like, oh, that's incredible. So we were like finishing the puzzle as we were talking to our experts.
That's pretty cool. So I mean, how, from your perspective, Joe, I mean, obviously mixing up an order, last thing you want to do. How do those changes make you feel?
I can't speak for other drivers, but that is, to me, about the worst experience you can have as a delivery driver because you've pretty much ruined everybody's experience. The nobody's getting the food they wanted. The restaurants, have already have a dissatisfied customer. The Uber's going to be hearing about it most likely, and it's going to affect the driver's bottom line. It's going to affect their rating and their income. So
Mhm.
it's something to be avoided at all cost. And I think I just today got to see the new product screen to honestly, and that I mean a lot of it's on the driver because the app can only do so much. The driver has to be diligent, has to do their share of the work, but the new screens are going to be a huge tool. I'm really excited to see those and put them into use.
All right. Well, we're going to have you back and hear how they worked out. It sounds pretty exciting. Um, let's shift a little bit to wait times. Another thing that I know is a big pain point for couriers. You're like you mentioned it already. You get an order, you're going to the second one, you're waiting 10 minutes, whatever. First order is getting cold. That's kind of becoming, that's also affecting your ratings. It's kind of stressing you out. Anna, when you heard um, folks express or concerns about wait orders, how did you take that and what did you action on there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, wait times is my Achilles heel. They are very complex, they're hard to solve. And we hear from our earners all the time, like waiting at the restaurant, it creates anxiety. I lived it myself. I had to wait a bunch in a merchant. So I also had to like let that other order go. So it's like very stress inducing. There's a lot we have to do, and there's a lot we can do. We also introduce the element of the merchant. That is like the third element of our marketplace. That's complicated in its own, and operationally it's very complicated. So we have to work hand in hand with them, and we are working. We are going to do a lot of improvements, and we're working very closely with them. For example, we have the order ready notification, so whenever Joe has to go to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, he's going to have a pop-up that says your order is ready or it's not ready. You need to wait a little bit. So we have like real signals of when the food could be ready. We also want to know what's happening on the ground. Like we see Joe waiting at a restaurant and we're like, oh, what's happening? Why is Joe still there? The food's supposed to be ready. So we already have a survey that we can get input from our couriers of what's happening. Like, why are you there? Is the food not ready? or did they tell you that something's missing? I want to know what's happening so that we can bring this feedback upstream and bring it to the merchant and to try to improve all of these wait times. There's a lot of work that a bunch of teams, not only mine, are doing around wait time and timeliness in general. So yeah, there's a lot of work. We're working on it, and we'll get there little by little.
So how are you prioritizing what to work on first?
Yeah, so I would love to clone myself and my team, but if that's not possible yet, we hear. First of all is the ear. I want to hear what our earners are saying. We look into the data, we break it down. We have a lot of huge problems, as Anthony and Sachin said. Like our problems sometimes are too big. So what we do is like we break them into pieces. I love to say that we do like steady, constant progress. And every week, every month, we try to improve it. We learn it worked, it didn't. Let's bring it back. Let's move forward. So that's how we do. And like, I, it's like my life goal to make the app easier, smoother, and safer. And it's also like I don't talk for myself. Everyone, all the teams, put a lot of love into the work, and like we really try to make progress. And it's coming from a lot of love of like helping our earners.
We could tell. Well, that's really exciting. Thank you both for coming on and talking about or giving your perspective on some exciting products, especially the batch delivery. Anna, thank you so much. Joe, thanks
Absolutely.
for joining us.
Thank you. And I'd like to call out, I didn't know till I got here that Anna and almost everybody else in the Uber management actually goes out and delivers. And I think that's hugely important. And that's I think why these sessions and the Uber Crew program are contributing to that steady, constant progress that she says. And I mean, there's no upper limit on better, so we're just going to keep going at it. And we can't expect everything to be perfect all at once. And
Yeah,
in just a year I've been involved in Crew, I've seen so much improvement.
that's amazing. I love that. No upper limit, the better. Good.
Right.
Thank you both. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
Anna, thank you. All right. So now we're going to shift gears to our last round here, last talk. We're going to bring up Jure, our crew member here. Hey, Jure, good to see you. And Anthony, back to see us here. So thank you guys both for coming in. We're going to close it out. Like I mentioned earlier today, lots of exciting features and products were launched. Too many to get through. We're focusing in on the hot ones, right? The real interesting ones. Anthony was just up here talking about destination mode. Shift gears on talking about more about giving drivers, couriers more choices, right? More preferences. But before we jump into that, Jure, if you can introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Jure. I'm an Uber driver in Virginia. This is my very first year as a crew member, but I've been on the platform for about 9 years. I've completed 14,000 rides, and I'm really proud of that. I like being a crew member so far because it gives me an opportunity to give feedback to the project managers, the product designers. We get together and I'm able to offer feedback, offer my opinion on what will work, what won't work. So it's been great to be able to be a part of that. I also like being able to work with the Uber team in a broader scale, being able to be like a liaison between other drivers and them. So it's been great.
Amazing. Thanks for being here. So Anthony, you're in the middle of a lot of exciting stuff. The through line seems to be giving, again, drivers and couriers more choices, more control. So kick us off. What else have we got on deck here?
Yeah, so generally speaking, Uber wants to build these sorts of preferences so drivers and couriers have more control because we can build win-wins into our marketplace. So essentially, when drivers and couriers like Jure have more control, it's going to be easier to work on the platform, and so they can work, in their free time whenever they want. They're going to, tend to work a little more hours. They're going to tend to work more days. We can attract more people onto the platform, and so when we have, more drivers on the platform, that's going to be better for our eaters and our riders because they're going to get to where they want to go quicker. If there's a driver nearby them, that they're going to get their food delivered faster if somebody's there already at the restaurant. And then in turn, when we have a better rider and eater experience, they come back to Uber more often. So now there's more earnings opportunities for drivers and couriers. It really turns into this like beautiful flywheel that's really great for everybody. And so when we're trying to build preferences, we're trying to do is find like what are the ones that are really going to make that work. What are our biggest driver and courier problems that when we fix them really start the whole process. And so like the next big opportunity we're really targeting is going after women drivers, like Jure. When you look at the data, we can see that we have way more men drivers than we have women drivers. And that's even if you like compare it across from rides to delivery. Delivery, it's much closer to even. There's still more men, but it's much closer to even. But if you go to rides, far more men than women. And so that really creates a big opportunity for us as Uber as a company. It's like, how do we get more women onto the platform? How do we get them engaged? And trying to figure out what is going on? What are the things that are preventing them from coming onto the platform? And it's not even just a supply problem. It's actually also a potential opportunity for the demand side as well. Because when we talk to women riders, one problem we've heard about our rides business is sometimes women riders prefer women drivers. And right now, because there's so many more men drivers than women drivers, they're not getting that. So we might actually also be preventing some of the demand we otherwise might want. So big emphasis for Uber the last few years has been how do we get more women onto the platform? And so, going from there, Uber Crew is a great forum to figure out from drivers like Jure, what is going on? Like, what are the things that are going on with women and how do we attract them onto the platform?
Well, Jure, you were part of some of these early discussions around women drivers and their experiences. What did you share? What did you hear other people surface?
So when we did the sessions about women earners, the most recurring theme was around safety. So a lot of us shared the precautionary measures we felt like we needed to take to feel a bit safer while we were out there. A lot of us shared that we don't drive very late night hours or weekends or large events. And that's just because, the feeling of safety sometimes can evade you in those situations. And we also talked about features that we use to help us increase our sense of safety. So a lot of us said we use dash cam recording. We also use the live location sharing within the app, and you can share your location with family and friends up to 5 people at a time, and that's a feature within the app. The other thing we talked about was control. We want to know who's getting in our car. We want more say over that. We also want to know, drawing a blank here, I'm sorry. So we also wanted to know.
Full control and safety, right? Well, I finished your thought. Well, I was going to ask Anthony, I mean, I think those are two themes that are really closely linked, right? Control, safety. Anthony, I mean, safety sounds pretty important, and we know that it's really important for Uber. What was your take on that in these women rider sessions?
Yeah, I mean, that came out clear as day that safety was the most important thing. And you actually heard Sachin say it here earlier today. It's like safety is first. Safety is our biggest priority. Uber employees, when we come into the work at the start of the day, we know we're going to go home at the end of the day, or we have pretty good confidence we're going to go home at the end of the day in one piece. And we want our drivers and couriers to feel the exact same way. We want them to feel confident that when they start their day, there's no question that when they come home, they're going to come home and they're going to be happy and everything's going to be great. So safety is by far our biggest priority. And so when we, hearing from Jure and other drivers, there's not just like one size fits all solution to safety. There's no, I wish I could just be a switch that's just the safety preference. Turn it on and you're going to get home at the end of the day and you're going to feel very confident and safe. But that's not how safety works. Safety is in all the little things that go on every day. So it's control over who gets in your car. It's making sure that when they do, you feel confident, you feel in control of your whole experience. So we knew we couldn't just design one thing that's going to solve this problem. We need to design a suite of features that are like together going to make drivers feel like they're in that control and they have that comfort, so that they're willing to come and work on the platform. And so one of the biggest ones we talked about earlier today is women rider preferred. So women drivers can come on the platform and say, hey, I would feel more confident and more comfortable if I only had women riders in my car. And we're really excited about this potential, about this feature. It's rolling out now. And we think that drivers will feel a lot more confident if they can just control who comes in their car.
Dre, what's your take on that?
I think that could be really huge because I think I see women earners, some of them will be using it all the time. I see some women will use it, intermittently, depending on the event, the time of day, what's going on. But being able to have that at their disposal, just knowing that that exists, is going to make a real difference. You're giving women back the control and the power to see how they drive, who's getting in their car, giving them that increased sense of safety. So I think that would be a huge win. And I think I'd be curious to see how many additional riders we gain to the platform,
Yeah,
knowing that that would be available to them.
yeah, that's actually a really good point. Um, it'll be interesting to see. Anthony, so we got woman rider preferred. You mentioned a suite of features, right, to address um, the issue around women earners. So what else do we have?
Yeah. Another one. It's kind of along the same lines that we actually just launched across the U.S. Fully and including here in D.C. Yesterday is called rider rating preference. So on our offer cards, we do show what is the rider rating of the rider that is you're potentially going to take a trip with. So drivers do have in real time the ability to say, oh, 4.7 stars. So I don't want that rider. But you don't have very long to make a decision on a given trip. And we know that there's a lot that drivers are thinking about when they're looking at that offer card. And so we developed the rider rating preference, and the idea being that you can decide ahead of time. I don't want to take anybody that's less than a 4.7 star rating, and we just simply won't send you offers that have riders with less than a 4.7 star. And then you don't have to worry about in that 15 seconds, whatever it is, that you actually get to decide on a trip. You don't have to worry about the rider rating anymore. Just make it simple, take away, give you peace of mind that you know who's going to actually get in your car at the end of the day.
That's really cool. Dre, we want to hear your thoughts on that feature, the rider rating preference, but I got a two-part question for you. I want to hear about that, but what do you think about both features together?
I think both features together really complement one another. They're going to work hand in hand. Again, it's about control. The women preference, that one is going to give you peace of mind. It's going to give you an added sense of confidence, but it's also going to cut your market in half. So if you leave it on all the time, it has the potential of really impacting your earnings. But with the rider rater preference, it opens it up to everybody based on the scoring. So I think that, again, gives you control, gives you options, and it gives you quite a bit of balance to be able to feel safe, that added sense of security. And I really think it will be a great feature and options for women earners to choose from and make them more attractive to our platform.
Very cool. Good. That's a really interesting perspective. All right, Anthony, keep them coming. What else you got? You said sweet. That's only two.
Okay. I'll give you one more.
All right.
So a couple years ago, we launched Record My Ride. I think Dre actually mentioned it already. She uses it. So for those that aren't aware, Record My Ride allows you to use your phone to just video exactly what's going on in your vehicle as you're taking a trip. It gives you a comfort that there's going to be a record of exactly what happens. And so this feature has been really well used. And in fact, we just hit a new milestone of 110 million recordings over the last month, which is a new record. But through sessions like with Jure talking about, we've learned that there's still, just like when we talked about destination mode, it wasn't perfect at its outset, and so we're still trying to improve it over time. And we're not done with that one. And so with Record My Ride, one of the things we learned is when the battery of your phone starts to go down or it starts to overheat because it's sitting on the dash and the sun is coming on it, whatever it is, Record My Ride will shut off. And that defeats the purpose of it, right? If it's not working when you need it, then you're not necessarily comfortable. And the whole point is that that feature is supposed to make you feel comfortable and confident in the car. And when it's turning off, and it doesn't do it often, when it does, that feels like it's betraying your trust. And so we went back to the drawing board. I was like, how do we fix this problem? Like, your battery's dying. How do we possibly, can't give you new battery in that moment? So the solve we have for this, we came out with, help with Jure, is that the video shuts off because that is what's grabbing most of your battery, but the audio will still record.
Oh, wow.
And so it might not be perfect, but it's a pretty good solution. You can still have a audio record of what's going on in the vehicle, during that trip. And we think that that'll help smooth out some of these bumps and make drivers feel more confident.
That's pretty cool. I mean, Jure, so you were part of discussions on a lot of these things. You worked with Anthony, helped, shape some of these products. Like how was that? How does that feel?
It feels great. I feel like what I've been able to participate in and what I've been able to contribute, I feel like Uber's really listening and taking what we say seriously. It's proof. The proof is in the pudding. We've got all these new features, real options in the app, and it's growing weekly. So I'm really grateful, and I think is making a huge impact.
I got to say, we're not done yet either.
Oh, okay, good. We're excited to hear what the next ones are. I want to thank both of you for joining and sharing your experiences and your thoughts, and also Anthony kind of dangling the carrot of what's next for us. We're excited. That brings the end to the close of Behind the Scenes. Thank you, everybody that's watching. Thank you for joining. Thank you to Jure, to Anthony, to Anna, Will, and Joe, our crew members and our product managers that participated today. And thanks to all of the crew members and product managers that have worked with us this year. I hope you could all see in today's show behind the scenes how the folks at Uber and the crew members work hand in glove to really shape the app, to improve the app, to create new features. It's a real collaborative process, and it's an exciting one. We want all of you to be part of that process too. We are about to open applications for 2026 Uber Crew. For everybody that's watching right now, we have some early access for you. So if you're streaming right now, you're on Zoom, you could click on the link in the screen, go to the website, and put your name, put your interest, put your hat in the ring for Crew 2026. Full applications open in a couple weeks. You could also go to the website, which is www.ubercrewportal.com/behind the scenes, and do the same. We really encourage you to sign up. It's a super exciting process. And again, just in this year alone, we've done about 50 crew sessions. And since Crew's been around, we've worked on 150 features. So that's pretty amazing. That just shows what a big impact this program has. So again, thanks for all the work you guys do. And thanks for watching.